Okay, so as Hashem, we're going to start a new midah. We're at the third to last one, so we're nearing the end. We hope to finish Be'ez Hashem by Pesach. That's the goal. Almost perfect, right? All this we've mastered, right? Everything is mastered, and as we go by it. So the following midah is runs counter to modern day thinking of education, which Dr. Berman is a big fan of. The next generation, everything that's modern. So you're going to really enjoy this one. It's called Bir Midas HaAnava. The next midah is Anava, is humility. And today we're very into positive reinforcement. Right? You're a tzaddik, Tatala, you're the best, you're unbelievable, and you're
participation award.
Yeah, that's right. You get an award for coming. Like in Little League now, the kids, everyone gets an award. Is they came?
Yeah, everybody is.
Right, so maybe the Shtil should give awards, for coming to Minions.
For coming.
So so this is the third to last midah. The Bir Midas HaAnava. How does the Mesillas define Anava? How does he define humility? Heyois hine klal Anavahu. The concept, the principle of Anava is Heyois Adam bilti machshav atzmai mishum tam shiyeh. A person is not machshav himself. He doesn't hold himself to be important. How do they translate here? A person should regard himself as unimportant in all circumstances. Right? A person is unimportant. I'm not important. Now, obviously, this is not meant to lead a person to depression. If I'm not important, so then I don't have to do anything. I'll stay in bed the whole day. I'm not important, right? But that's not the case. But as we go through the midah, we'll see. But that is the definition of anivos, is bilti heyosa adam bilti machshav atzmai mishum tam shiyah. A person's not machshav himself. I've accomplished so much in my life, and something is it's coming to me. I deserve something. He explains that anivos, humility, is broken up in machshava and maisa, in thought and how a person views himself in his thoughts and how he acts. The way a person inculcates in himself anivos in his machshava is he realizes, number one, I'm lacking so much. There are so many things that I lack. How can I be a balgaiva? How can I be arrogant and hold myself as I've accomplished something when it comes to X, Y, and Z? But I lack so much in each one of those areas. And secondly, and I think the more, for us, maybe a little more practical, is the realization that everything I have is a matana. It's a present from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's my nature. If a person, he says, for example, is very smart, and he is much brighter and much wiser than everyone else, but that's his teva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him that ability. He doesn't have it on his own. Person is a gibor. He's very strong. Person is very wealthy. The mashal, the parable he gives is the mashar sehabayis. You have a person who has a big mansion, and he has workers in the mansion. So there's the doorman, right? He's the doorman in a nice little tuxedo. Imagine if the doorman would be arrogant about his clothing. Look at my clothing. You walk around like he's so chashav. Your master gave it to you. You don't deserve anything. You just signed up for the job, and he gave you the clothing. And when he opens the door and invites you into the house, he invites you in his mind into his house. That guy's a meshugana. He's crazy. It's not your house. What did you do? You did nothing. You're a high school dropout. That's why you're a butler. You didn't do anything. Right? But in his mind, he views himself, this is my house. A person who opens the door to his own house and has that thought is as crazy as the butler. Says the Mesillas Yesharim that if a person is a chacham, which is that is something to be arrogant about, because that's a part of the person himself, that he's a intellectual, he's a chacham, or if he's a gibor, if he's an ashir. All that means is that he has responsibility. If a person is a chacham, he has responsibility to share his chachma. If a person is a gibor, he has a responsibility to help people who are weaker. If a person is an ashir, if he's wealthy, he has a responsibility to help the poor. So there's no reason to be arrogant. Number one, it was given to you as a present, and you deserve nothing. And number two, all it means is I have responsibility to make sure that I use my talent in a way that helps other people and helps the world. So if a person views it like that, any good midah I have is nothing for me to sit back and say, wow, I'm a really good football player, I'm a really good baseball player. It's for me to help others, it's a responsibility. Then a person that will not be a guy, but the opposite true, he will have anivus, he will be humble. He goes on to bring Mamari Chazal that reinforce the chashivas, how important anivus is, being an anav. He quotes the Gemara in Soita, Kama gedolim nemuchei haruach. How great are those people who have a low spirit, who hold themselves not to be so chashiv. Shebizman shebeis hamikdash kaim, and the beis hamikdash is there. A person brings an oila, He gets the reward for bringing the korban oilos. You read in this past week's parsha. He brings a mincha. He gets the reward for bringing a mincha. V'misha daita shvala olav, a person who is humble, who has humility. Ma'ila olav akasav kilu hikriv kol korbanos kulam. It's as if he brought all the korbanos, like it says in Tehillim, zivchei lokim ruach nishbara. The korban of Hashem is a ruach nishbara, a broken spirit. Now, a broken spirit doesn't mean, again, depression. Today, unless I think I'm great, I'm depressed. Because you have to realize that I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to fulfill my tachlis in life. I have a tachlis. There's something, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a plan for each one of us, right? But nothing is coming to me. In and of myself, I have no chashivas. Everything happens from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I have to take that and do my job. So on the one hand, I don't think that I am independently important. On the other hand, I realize I have an important job, a responsibility that I have to do. So if a person views his talents as a responsibility, that will lead to humility as opposed to arrogance. David HaMelech says, Ma Ashiv LaHashem Kol Tag M'Loi Olai. Everything that I have is from you. All David HaMelech's achievements, and he achieved much more than any of us, all his achievements he realized comes from Hashem. A person has that mindset that everything I have, all my talents come from Hashem, then that leads to humility. The Gemara Bracha says, Kol Toila B'Schus Atzmai, anyone who takes credit for any accomplishment that he does, Toila Lo B'Schus Acher. Sorry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make sure that other people get credit for that. And the credit will not come to him. And especially says in Mesillas Yesharim, if a person thinks about the previous generations, a person thinks my tefillah, my davening is so good, and my matzahs and my lulav and esrog is so great, go back a few generations and think about how the Yidden were Oved Hashem back then. And think about how great they were, and that's definitely enough to put a person in his place and to make him humble.
How more difficult it was.
And how difficult it was. Yeah, Baruch Hashem, we're sitting and we're learning, and I come to a Shiur Sunday morning, which is very chashuv, everyone should come. But yeah, because we have the air conditioning's on, and we have good light, we have good bagels, we have nice setup over here, thanks to Avi, who'll be doing it for many years to come.
Boy, Beach.
Although we expect this, there's no out clause in his contract with the Shtiebel that does not exist.
Yesharim says that. He says that the previous
always
were headed,
had a greater live. We're orphans. We compare. If I think I've achieved something in Yiddishkeit, I think back to previous generations. I see what they accomplished. I'm going to be about God. I'm going to be arrogant. But again, we have to remind ourselves constantly. It's not a debilitating thought. It's just putting in perspective. So I'm not so great, but I have an important job. I have a responsibility. I have an achrayus, and that's what motivates me. My motivation isn't a sense of fulfillment that I'm successful in what I'm doing, per se. That's not my motivation. My motivation is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given me a job to do. I must do that job. It's a sense of responsibility as opposed to like fulfillment. We have to feel fulfilled, and it does feel good to do a mitzvah. But the driving force in our life, in our avodas Hashem, is I have responsibility. There was I heard this from someone whose father was there in South Africa when it was the former chief rabbi, Rabbi Jacobowitz. He was the former chief rabbi 2 ago, before Rabbi Sachs, in England. He was in a medical conference in South Africa, and he was discussing abortion, and he was giving the Jewish view on abortion. And a woman gets up, one of the head of some department, some chashuv doctor in South Africa. She gets up, and she says, "Well, what about the mother's rights?" And he said, "What about the mother's responsibility?" So the head of the whole conference got up afterwards and said, "It's at times like this that I wish I was Jewish. Because we have a perspective, for everything we have, the Torah tells us what to do. We have a law book that guides us. What about the woman, the mother's rights? She has a right to her own body. What about your responsibility? You have an achrayus. A woman falls pregnant, that's an achrayus. It's a responsibility. You have a responsibility. But no one thinks like that. I have a friend who's in Kiev in Melbourne, and they once talking about responsibility, and the kid said that's like a dirty word. It's like the way people, the university students today think that responsibility is like a negative thing. It's a bad thing. Someone's telling me that you're going to love this. Someone's telling me that now there's like a phenomenon. It's called the Sunday Scaries. You want to hear that? The Sunday Scaries? Sunday evening, maybe it's only in New York then, in Manhattan. Sunday evening, like the millennials, they get all nervous. They have a whole week ahead of them of work. and there's stress to get there on time, and there's expectations, and everyone gets nervous when there's responsibility. I mean, people expect.
If I don't pay that, they get scared about that.
That's fun.
They don't worry about money.
Exactly.
Yeah, the mother
Not
father.
the
The
mother
father.
father.
The baby boomers will take care of them. They don't worry about money.
We're vaccinated.
But that is the approach to anivus, without getting depressed, is responsibility versus feelings of success and fulfillment. And I'm the best and I'm great. It's responsibility. He goes weiter and says the second half of anivus, of humility, which is action. 4 things a person must do to act humble. If you act humble, a person will help him become humble. Number 1 is b'diburoi, the way he speaks. The person speaks softly and nicely to people. Even for selfish purposes. If you want your ideas to be heard, you can't yell at people. If you want them to be heard, you have to talk nicely. And yeah, you agree? Even in Georgia, they talk.
Does that include Rabbanim from the pulpit?
It could be its difference. Sometimes you have to get a little fire and brimstone, but in general, one-on-one. If you disgrace your fellow man, you're heartless. So a person has to make sure, in general, his speech is benachas. B'halichas, the way a person walks, it's the second action that a person must act humbly. A person, the Gemara in Bracha says, whoever walks with a straight posture, he's pushing away the Shechina. The way a person walks is to walk in a humble manner, realizing that he has this responsibility. B'shivtoi, where does the person sit? He has to sit. But must sit amongst the Hamayim. It's better to sit in a position physically that's less chashuv, and they'll ask you to come to the front. No one likes when someone walks into the shul and on their own walks over to the front and sits down. It's a bad taste. Sit in the back, and if you're chashuv, we'll bring you to the front, but not just to walk over to the front. So the way a person sits, the Chavetz Chaim, famous Mesillas with the Chavetz Chaim, that they wanted to in the 1950s, I think, they wanted to knock out to build over the Beis HaKvaros in Rad, the cemetery in Rad. They wanted to build the stores on top of it. So they still remember the Chavetz Chaim, even the Goyim were mamash misbah from the Chavetz Chaim, and they sent a letter to Aaron Cutler in America that we're going to give you permission to exhume his body and bury him somewhere else, because they remembered the holy Jew before they destroyed the cemetery. So Rabbi Aaron Cutler paskind that leave the kever there, because the Chavetz Chaim would not tolerate his body, his being moved, and everyone else staying there, because the Chavetz Chaim very much held of b'soich am yanuch yeshav. So I'm not more chashuv than anyone else. I have my responsibility. He has his responsibility, and we're all one. We're all together. So he didn't let them move the Chavetz Chaim. At the end of the day, they ended up not destroying the cemetery. It's still there. But the idea, even the Chavetz Chaim, who was the biggest gadol hador, b'soich am yanuch yeshav, to the extent he held that, to the extent that his Talmud decades later paskind to desecrate his Rebbe's grave, essentially, because he knew his Rebbe would not want that he got saved and the poor little maidservant didn't get saved. Right? Unbelievable story. That's anivus. That is anivus. That's b'shivtoi. And then there is svilas alboinus, which means a person endures insult. What happens when someone insults you? Do you fight back? What's the first reaction? So an anav, okay, you're right, I'm much worse than you think. You think I'm this, you come and you attack me with this. If you knew me, I'm much worse than that. That's how the anav responds. Hana'lavim ve'enam ovin. The people who are insulted, they don't fight back. Shonim cherpasim, they receive abuse. Ve'enam yeshivim, and they don't respond back to abuse. Aleim akasav oim. The pasuk refers to them when it says, "Half of those who love Hashem, kitseis hashamish beguros." They have the strength of the sun when it comes out with all its glory. The truth is that a real confident person doesn't have to fight back. If you insult me, so listen, I'm so much better than you. Right? If a person thinks that, even a Baal Gaiva sometimes might not respond back. But a person not a Baal Gaiva who's confident in himself, okay, fine. So either you're right or you're wrong. If you're right, I hear, I made a mistake. And if you're wrong, okay. But I know who I am and I have my strengths and I'm happy with that. So a person doesn't get riled. That is the Svilas Elboinus. And then the Sinas Harabanos Ubrichas HaKavod. Not liking to be in the limelight, not liking the spotlight, not liking to be having positions of authority, and running away from kavod. You should all seek to run away from kavod again. B'soich am yanuch yeshavas kol haroidiv. This is true. Kol haroidiv achar kavod. Whoever runs after kavod, the kavod is boireach mimenu. The kavod runs away from him. We all know people who demand kavod, and it's very distasteful. And people run away from that person, usually. That is the fourth, that's the third. And the fourth is to be chila kavod l'chal adam. The fourth way one acts like an anav is to give kavod to each person. If you want to really have kavod, if you machabed others, that brings the person kavod. So that's the irony. A person who demands kavod, it runs away from him. If a person acts like an anav, then everyone comes towards him. The Mesillas ends the parak Chav Beis with the following observation: Ki anav, there are tovus rabbis, many good things that come as a result of being humble. Ki anav yachush ma'at al divrei olam. He's not going to get so into taivas the olam hazeh. V'lo yikane b'havalav. He's not going to be jealous of people going parasailing v'chulu. V'oid she chevra sa'anav noy ad ma'oid. His chevra, a humble person. He's not the life of the party. He's the humble guy. His chevra, the people he hangs out with, are very good stature, very good people, quality people. He doesn't come to anger. He doesn't fight. Everything is done quietly, and he has a happier life. Right, as we always say, is that this whole sefer is not just how to get Olam Haba. Not just, it's definitely to get Olam Haba, but it's also how to have a happier life. A person who acts like an anav will have a happier life. So I think the project for this week will be to think of a strength that we have and realize how that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And not to take any credit for that strength, but to view it as a responsibility and see how can I use this strength to help other people. Not to look down on those who don't have it. That's the natural tendency. That's the gaiva. That's the arrogant tendency. I have a strength that others don't have. What can I do? That's a responsibility. I have responsibility. What can I do to share that strength with other people? That'll be the project for the week.